Hello and welcome to this week's video. I'm going to be using some circle dies, this Make and Create Moments pack, and some white and black card. Now I've chosen four patterns from this paper pack, and the intention is to be doing some flags or banner ends on this page and making those the main element. So I started this page, or I thought about this page, because somebody was talking in a Facebook group about coming back to scrapbooking after being away for a number of years and feeling that you had to use cut files, so therefore had to have a cutting machine. Now I love using cut files, I do use quite a few, but that's not the case. You don't have to use cut files. So I thought I'll do this page using the bare minimum of tools. So essentially I am making these flags with my guillotine or my cutting tool. So I've just cut these at 3 inches and then cut into the middle, so 1.5 inches into the middle to make this flag, and then cut up from the corner. So I've used a pair of scissors and a cutting tool so far, and the only other tool I use on this page is a distresser and then glue. The distresser, if you haven't got a distresser for the pages, you can also use scissors. So this is effectively just a paper on paper. So the idea is to lay these flags on the black paper and then make a void out of the white. So I'm just layering these, sort of thinking about how I want them. And I said I was going for 4, and now I'm not sure this is actually going to work how I want it to, so I'm starting thinking maybe I actually might want a 5th one. The black I am cutting at 3 1/4, so that the black is going to back each one of these flags or banners, and it's going to give a nice trim around the outside just to make the page sort of pop a little bit. So now I'm just working out how to use, or where to use and where to cut, so that I can use the least amount of paper and sort of recycle part of it. So yeah, I don't want to just waste the paper, but I am going to use a lot of paper. So this page does turn out to be quite heavy. The white cardstock I'm using here is a lime tree cardstock, and it is a very, very heavy cardstock, so it's perfect for adding these extra layers onto it. So I turned around the yellow and thought, actually I quite like that hearts and kisses, so that gives me that more bold element here and will make the page sort of pop a little bit better. And I am just going through here and cutting and backing all of these. So I was thinking, do I want to see the top, the black across the top or not? And then I decided, actually, no, I don't. I want the top and the bottom of this page to just end with the colour. So I've moved those, and as we go through, you will see that I cut most of them across the top to make sure the black doesn't peek through. And I'm using this Tim Holtz distressing tool. But as I said, if you haven't got a distressing tool, you can just use the side of a pair of scissors, and you can keep cutting and sanding away some of the edge of the paper using a pair of scissors. So I just play around with this and work out which way I want to go. I am literally just playing around with where they go. Now I cut 2 of each colour into the banner strips, but then as I'm going along, of course, I'm not using a full size. So I do end up just using pretty much 1 of each of the colours, apart from the yellow, because I've used the yellow and the reverse side with the hearts and the crosses. So I did have to, I did only have a little bit left over to finish this off, the 2 flags. And the extra pieces that I did cut, I am going to use later on because as showed, I was intending on using some dies, some circle dies. Now these are nesting circle dies that I have, but they don't nest as tightly as I wanted them to. So I actually use the die to cut one of the circles, the coloured circle, and then when I back it, I actually used my scissors to cut the circle out. So again, it is an extra tool if you wish to use it. If not, I mean, you might have punchers to cut circles, or you can always cut them freehand. So I'm just playing around with how I'm layering them. I'm not quite sure how I'm going about this yet, whether I'm going to make it uniform and layer them from the left to the right with the one on each one going on top of the one before. I haven't really figured that quite out yet. I'm sort of playing around with them as I go and seeing how I feel and how I think the page balances. So sometimes you might want, I don't want the colours next to one another or one underneath the other, sorry, but I am going to probably have some next to each other. And it is just a case of working out which ones I want where. Each one of these papers has a slightly different pattern. So the yellow has the little red spots, which are sort of not uniform, they're sort of splodges. The red one has the stripes, the green one has bigger splodges, and actually the white with the black spots and the yellow with the red spots is more or less the same sort of pattern, but because of the different colours it doesn't look too bad together. I do like the top, but it's not an even flow of colour, so I do move them around a little bit. I've decided that I'm going to, the middle one I'm going to use as my anchor point, and then they go from left to right on top of that one. So you are going to cover more of the green in the middle at the top there and more of the white one, but that anchors it quite nicely, I thought. It doesn't make it go all the way from left to right. It kind of goes from the centre out both ways, and I quite like how that effect turned out. And as I'm layering them, I'm going to make sure that the bottom ones directly line up with the top ones, just to give some form of symmetry to the page. So there's cutting that flag out of that extra piece there and layering that one down. So as I say again, I've just used a basic cutting tool, a pair of scissors and a distresser, but you can use the scissors to distress, and then the only other thing that I've used is glue. So now I'm sticking these ones down, and so I'm judging by eye where I want the top ones to go, and then the bottom ones I'm going to use a ruler and make sure that they line up perfectly. So there is that form of symmetry. Just turn that around slightly just to make sure that they all sit nicely and cover the white. The only white I want showing is the white that goes straight through the middle, which is where I'm planning on putting my title. So there we go. We've got the green next to one another, but they balance quite nicely, and with the yellow balancing with the yellow on the top right hand corner and the bottom left hand corner. So now I'm looking at these circles, and as I say, I was thinking, well, they don't line up properly. So what I actually did was I cut the circles in the colour and then hand cut with my scissors the black circles around. So I'm layering these down now. I found a photograph I want to use, which is of my son, and therefore my title is Be Bold, like the page is, and then in smaller letters I've got All Blonde. Because these photographs are photographs my son took that I stole off Instagram of him once he went to university when he bleached his hair. So I'm going to finish off by backing the photographs, just working out which way the photographs layered down, if I could use the least amount of paper by having them side by side, but there wasn't quite going to be the background, the amount that I needed. Off camera I cut those because I'm trying to preserve his identity by putting my logo over his face, so it was a bit difficult to cut those on camera. And now I am distressing the circles and layering those down and working out where I want them. So that one, that hearts and noughts and crosses, I took off and cut not quite in half, so that it comes off one side and comes off the bottom as well. So I'm just popping these down. This is just to add an extra element and to break the page down and make it less boxy, and just to give it a slightly different feel. So I'm sticking those all down with a tacky glue. That now the glue is come to it towards the end of its life. I'm needing to use a paintbrush to apply rather than squeezing the tube, just to get the most out of it and not waste any of the product. So I'm applying that with as you can see, with a paintbrush. And we are layering this up, and then I don't usually do this, but I'm also using glue to stick my photograph down in order to use the minimal amount of items, and then using a thin nozzle glue, same sort of glue in it as a high-tack sort of glue, and sticking down my letters. And the only other thing to do once the title is completely stuck down is to do a little bit of journaling. I found there were some flyaway bits from the die cut, and I just blew those off by putting my hand down so I didn't blow away the tiny little letters. So that's the only problem with these little letters. If you give a little blow on the page to get rid of some paper dust, you blow them away. So now I'm just writing, I can't believe you went off to university and one of the first things you did was bleach your hair, ... what's next, ? And you can see my little cat up there on the right, which is going to go on the page in a minute. And that will finish off this page. Be bold or be blonde, be whatever you want to be. But I hope you've enjoyed my video and that this inspires you to do some crafting this week. And I look forward to seeing you next week. Thank you. Bye.